Investigators have determined that Damian Sanderson was a victim of homicide by Miles Sanderson.
Tonight, RCMP in Saskatchewan say one man acted alone in last month's stabbing rampage on the James Smith Cree Nation.
Gangs and the drugs are come to a point in my community where my community is living in fear. People are feeling powerless.
A Dene First Nation in northern Saskatchewan declares a state of emergency.
Outcomes for our children in care have been homelessness, incarceration, mental health issues.
And the Chiefs in Manitoba go to court against the provincial government in a $1 billion lawsuit over childcare. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Saskatchewan RCMP provided more details today in the mass stabbing at James Smith Cree Nation in Weldon, Saskatchewan. 11 people were killed in the September 4th incident, and RCMP now say Miles Sanderson was responsible for all of the homicides, including that of his brother Damian Sanderson, who was a suspect early on in the investigation. Police say that Miles and Damian were selling drugs on the First Nation and had been involved in violent incidents the day before the stabbings. Assistant Commissioner Rhonda Blackmore said they are still examining Damian's involvement.
We are still investigating the extent of Damian's involvement. On September 5th, the Saskatchewan RCMP advised the public that Damian Sanderson was charged with 1 count of first-degree murder, 1 count of attempted murder, and 1 count of break and enter. This was based on our preliminary investigation and information from victim and witness accounts. After completing 250 interviews, processing over 670 exhibits, reviewing and following up on over 100 911 calls for service, investigators have determined that Damian Sanderson was a victim of homicide by Miles Sanderson. Miles Sanderson committed all of the homicides alone. This brings the total number of people who were killed by Miles Sanderson on September 4th, 2022 to 11.
RCMP today say they still do not know the motive for the attacks. Still in Saskatchewan, the Buffalo River Dene Nation is once again declaring a state of emergency after 2 elders were attacked over the weekend. As Sarah Connors tells us, leaders are desperate to make sure a repeat of history doesn't happen again.
They're desperate words from a First Nation facing a community safety crisis.
The gangs and the drugs are come to a point in my community where my community is living in fear. People are feeling powerless. The gang violence.
Norma Catterat is the chief of the Buffalo River Dene Nation in northwest Saskatchewan. Her First Nation is reinstating a state of emergency issued in June after 2 elders were attacked over the weekend.
The crisis is overwhelming, and the ability to feel safe in our community and the well-being of our members are at stake. And this is escalating.
Catterat says the community of 800 people is being plagued by rampant gang violence and drug use. With the tragedy in James Smith Cree First Nation still fresh, leaders pleaded for the provincial and federal governments to provide more funding for supports and Indigenous-based policing.
The justice system is failing us on the First Nation. We have to come up with new ways to help our community.
With no sign of the violence slowing down, Catterat says Northern First Nations need to uplift and support each other.
It's an overwhelming issue that's taking over a lot of our First Nations communities. And we need each other. We need each other's support to be able to deal with a lot of the stuff that's going on right now. Thank you.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News.
We want to hear what you have to say about anything you've seen here. Here's how you can continue the conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on our website, aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs announced today they filed a $1 billion lawsuit on behalf of families harmed by the province's child welfare system. APTN's Tamara Pimentel has that story.
The Child and Family Services system failed my family and continues to fail other First Nation families.
Roberta Godin spoke at a press conference today to support the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs and the First Nations Family Advocate Office's lawsuit against both the provincial government and the Attorney General of Canada.
I'm bringing this case because I believe that no child should grow up away from the love and care of their family. No parent should be denied the right or responsibility to love and care for their children.
The lawsuit says the child welfare system in Manitoba has failed children, their families, and their communities. The move comes months after the federal government reached a $20 billion settlement with the Assembly of First Nations. It's meant to support children on reserve. First Nations family advocate Cora Morgan says this new lawsuit will support children living off reserve.
There's so much damage that has been done that we cannot undo. You know, the outcomes for our children in care have been homelessness, incarceration, mental health issues, you know, all the negative aspects that most Canadians are not faced with.
There are over 10,000 of Manitoban kids in care, and 80% are Indigenous. Amber LaPlante says when she was in care, she was exposed to violence and trauma, and it later impacted her own child.
Because I was in care, I was denied a chance to parent my daughter and form a meaningful bond and connection with her.
Representatives say the lawsuit aims to hold governments accountable for the destruction of families like LaPlante's. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Now, the federal government, who's got its own class action lawsuit going on, sent us a statement saying that they are aware of this lawsuit but cannot provide comment at this time as they are reviewing. And they will continue to address all the class actions with regard to child welfare. The Manitoba Department of Family's Press Secretary to Minister Rochelle Squires told reporters in part that the province continues to work with their federal counterparts to reduce the number of children in the child welfare system. The Trudeau government announced $11 million in funding for Inuit suicide prevention Thursday morning. But even with this latest funding, it still falls short of what the Liberals committed to mental health in the 2021 federal election campaign. APTN's Fraser Needham has more.
Inuit Tapparit Kanatami President Nathan Obed says the new funding will go toward its suicide prevention strategy.
We will do all that we can and partner with who we can on suicide prevention moving forward, and I'm very pleased that Minister Haidu and the government has taken this issue seriously, and we continue to work together on it.
ITK launched the strategy in 2016, and according to the organization's documents, suicide prevention considers the entire lifespan of the individual, as well as what can be done to provide support for families and individuals in the wake of adverse experiences that we know increase suicide risk. Also, according to ITK numbers, suicide rates in Nunavut and Nunavik are roughly 10 times the national average. But at a Thursday press conference, Obed was unable to say whether suicide rates have decreased since the strategy was implemented 6 years ago.
Actually, suicide rates in general are very difficult to calculate, especially from an Inuit-specific lens. We are working now with the RCMP and with coroners and with jurisdictions to try to come up with an MOU or some sort of working arrangement so we would have a better understanding of deaths by suicide that also has an ethnic identifier with it.
The 2022 Liberal budget pledges $228 million over 5 years for Indigenous mental wellness. Even with the additional $11 million, this is far below the $4.5 billion for mental health as a whole that was promised in the last election. Indigenous Services Canada Minister Patty Hajdu had this to say about the difference in the numbers.
Well, I don't know if there is a discrepancy. This government has been committed to mental wellness and mental health, including, by the way, a transformation of the Canada drug strategy and the way that we address substance use in this country. All of those things are important. The National Housing Strategy is an important mental wellness contribution to ensuring that people have access to decent housing.
Also on Thursday, NDP MP Laurie Idlout went after the Liberals during question period for underfunding mental health.
Indigenous people rightfully expect more from this government who continues to be all talk with no action. Will this government finally commit to culturally appropriate Indigenous mental health funding that they promised?
And Hajdu responded.
And I will say, Mr. Speaker, promise is being shown by these Indigenous-led approaches. It was an honor to be with President Obed today to announce that the federal government will top up the funding that ITK has by $11 million.
Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Time to step aside for a quick break. And then, Sports with Stranger is back. Stick around. Welcome back. The long regulatory road for Nunavut's Baffinland iron ore mine is nearing an end, with a decision that means at least a temporary reprieve for the over 1,100 jobs the North Baffin Island mine has created. Our Kent Driscoll is joining us now from Iqaluit. Kent, how did we get here and what's still yet to come?
Thanks. Now, first let's start with how we got here. The Baffinland iron ore mine is located in northeastern Baffin Island, in between the communities of Pond Inlet and Arctic Bay. They're currently cleared to mine just over 4 million tons of iron ore annually. They want to mine 12 million tons a year. And yesterday, they received approval from the Department of Northern Affairs to mine 6 million tons of iron ore annually. Now, the way Nunavut's land use regime works, the Nunavut Impact Review Board makes a recommendation to the feds, Northern Affairs. That's all it is, a recommendation. It's up to the Federal Department of Northern Affairs to accept or reject those recommendations. Yesterday's announcement of the temporary increase to 6 million, it's one of two decisions about the future of the mine that are currently on the desk of Northern Affairs Minister Dan Vandel. The Impact Review Board recommended in favor of the increase to 6 million, but recommended against the increase to 12 million tons a year. Vandel's office has indicated that a decision on the 12 million should be coming in about a month. Now, Baffinland had already sent out termination notices to over 1,100 employees, but the increase to 6 million tons means they're not going through with it. Those jobs are safe for now. In a written statement, a Baffinland spokesperson wrote, "The application for our Phase 2 expansion is still with the Minister, and we expect to receive his decision within the coming months. Through extensive consultation with our stakeholders, we believe we have put forward a strong application that addresses Inuit concerns." That Phase 2 he's talking about, that's the proposed 12 million tons annually that they're hoping to get. Now, this time, Northern Affairs held up the decision of the Nunavut Impact Review Board. In a month, we'll get to see if they continue to follow the agency's lead or decide to give the mine the quota that they're asking for. Back to you in Winnipeg.
Thanks, Kent. Well, after a brief experiment in the spring with a new sports segment, our Daryl Stranger is back this fall, bringing you more sports stories from across Turtle Island. This week on Sports with Stranger, Daryl is joined by two very special guests to talk about a brand new award aimed at recognizing the achievements of Indigenous athletes.
Hello everyone and welcome to another segment of Sports with Stranger. Today I have two very, very special guests and it's a pleasure to be able to welcome you both. John and Brian, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Daryl.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
So we're here today talking about a very special award, John, and a great award that you helped start, really. So can you sort of walk us through sort of why we're here today and what we're talking about?
Well, as we were doing our Hockey Night in Canada in Cree this year, we're trying to figure out how to honor not just a player, but a prominent player from our past. And we were talking about an MVP award. How could we do it? And we said, okay, let's call it the Indigenous Most Valuable Player. Not being able to use the term NHL because of property, not having really okayed it with them and talked to them. So, well, who should we name it after? And I mean, there's only one person I could think of. And Brian and I have done work for years together across the country, across the territories. We're together again, going to Grassy Narrows, and we have a relationship that I thought this would fit perfectly. And he's given back more than most would understand. And I think one easy way to give back to him would be the name of the award after him. And when you're a top 100 of all time, you're a Hall of Famer, and you've won 7 Stanley Cups, 6 as a player. I mean, there couldn't be a better recipient for this trophy.
No, I absolutely agree. And Brian, this award is obviously going to be named after you. So, I mean, what's that mean to you to have this, award started in your name, and especially one recognizing the achievements of Indigenous hockey players?
Prestigious and beautiful, gorgeous. Very, very proud to have my name on it.
Yeah, it is gorgeous. And I mean, I just can't stop looking at it. So I'm really excited that these sticks are here with us. And now everyone obviously knows you two as former NHL players and coaches as well. But a lot of what you do is, going into Indigenous communities and talking to kids. And, you both have really done that right since you retired, right? So, I mean, Brian, why is that so important for you to be doing?
Well, when we get asked by the communities to come in and talk, we want to leave a message. And the message that I always like to hear is make healthy choices, pursue your dreams with all your might, and look for help along the way, because that's how I achieved my dreams. I'm at a point in my life when we're done playing, we want to influence. I'm a dad, now a grandfather, and my grandparents and my dad and my family, my community, everybody supported me. And my mom's Irish, and she told me, be proud of your native, because that's where you get a lot of your strength. That's where you get a lot of your talents, and it's in your blood. And we tried to leave that message that there's this wonderful talent within all of us, whether it's music, art, sports, and we all have this natural love of animals and nature and all this wonderful things, and that's what we grew up with. And we thought, my God, if we can influence the next generation of student athlete, and Johnny and I've talked this many times as we've with our Aboriginal alumni team, we go in with a message, and we want to influence in a positive way, leave an impact, and help this next generation achieve their dreams.
Well, that's really well put, and I think you of all people to say that is really wonderful. And John, I mean, is there maybe a message you'd like to get out with this award, or I guess what do you hope to see as this award kind of takes shape over the next few years?
Well, I think one of the most important things, this isn't just an NHL award. I think it's important to know that it's for high achieving athletes of every level. And so it could be a female volleyball player from the north. It could be a young lad soccer player from the west. So we are not just concentrating on professional sports. We want to make sure it's an Indigenous athlete who's achieved at a level above what they expected they could do. And we're going to receive nominations, and we're going to sift through them, and we'll do due diligence and pick honest, good, hardworking kids that are trying to achieve. And I think, as Brian said in his, we all want to make a difference, and this is an easy way to do it. Having Brian's name on it just gives it the cachet that we need. But there's like you said, there's a bunch of kids, girls and boys, women and men that are out there every day doing it, and we want to make sure that they can at one point get recognized for it.
Well, and this is such a great award, and I do believe you have a Sharpie, Brian. I do. And so, like you had mentioned, Brandon Montour is the first recipient of this award. So one stick will be going to him, and one will actually be here for APTN. So you want to give that a quick signature for us, if you don't mind?
Absolutely. Our friends here at APTN would be proud to do this, and I would like to display this stick with the one with Brandon, because it has the lacrosse and the hockey stick, his number. Obviously, it has the name of the award on there, and some of the art design on here is just spectacular.
It is really unreal.
And I'm
really
really overly impressed by
Done by Patrick Hunter, who's a great artist based out in Ontario. So yeah.
So yeah, we're going to sign this up, and this is going to, we'll put a little mustard on here with the Hall of Fame.
You want to hold that up for the camera a little bit, maybe here? I think we're going on the left side.
So yes, this is beyond what anybody could dream about having their name on this prestigious award. So congratulations to Brandon and future award winners. This is something you can be very, very proud of.
And something we're all going to be looking forward to as the years go by with this award. So I want to thank you both for coming in and speaking with me for a little bit. So
John and APTN deserve a lot of credit. Well done. This is spectacular.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you guys again, and we'll see you next time on Sports with Stranger.
And those sticks are absolutely stunning. Daryl and I played a little hockey with them earlier today. Just kidding, those sticks should never touch the floor or the ice. We have a preview coming up of tonight's season premiere of Nation to Nation. That's after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's take a look now at our photo of the day. And this one courtesy of Shelby Durand, who captured this shot of a beautiful sunset over Park Elzire Goulet in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Thanks for sharing. If you want to be featured as our photo of the day, email your shots to share@aptn.ca along with a location. Now let's take a look at Friday's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 19 for Halifax and Charlottetown. +4 for Kuujjuaq and Nain. 16 with showers in Montreal, chance of snow and 5 in Val-d'Or. Cloudy and 8 for Sault Ste. Marie, snow and 6 in North Bay. Cloudy and 9 for Thunder Bay, 7 for Sioux Lookout. +10 in God's Lake, rain and 10 in Norway House. Sunny and 10 for Winnipeg, sun's out and 14 in Dauphin. A sunny high of 15 for Regina, 17 under the sun in Saskatoon. Sunny and 16 in Meadow Lake, 14 for La Ronge. In northern Alberta, 17 for High Level and Grand Prairie. 21 in Edmonton, sunny and 20 for Lethbridge. 20 for Vancouver, 24 in Kamloops. Cloudy and 18 for Prince George, 18 in Smithers. 8 in Old Crow, 16 is the high for Whitehorse. 12 in Yellowknife and Wrigley, 13 in Norman Wells. 0 for Sachs Harbor, +8 in Pawlatuck. Snow and -1 for Chesterfield, +1 with snow for Whale Cove. -4 in Resolute, 7 below in Igloolik. Coming up tonight, right after the newscast, is the season premiere of Nation to Nation. Here's a preview.
I'm Lindsay Richardson, and tonight on Nation to Nation, the provincial election is over, and the CAQ is back for the next 4 years. AFNQL Regional Chief Ghislain Picard and Cree Grand Chief Mandy Galmasti join us with context and what it all means for Indigenous people. Quebec might deny systemic racism, but it's the crux of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit filed by Joyce Echaquan's family. Their lawyer weighs in on their next steps. And finally, how Chisasibi is leading the charge as the first community in Quebec undertaking ground searches at a residential school site. All that and more coming up right after the news.
Thanks, Lindsay. Looks great. You can catch that in less than 2 minutes' time. So that's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Thursday. For much more, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.